This week we overnight sail from Martinique to Grenada, make friends on a sandy beach, teach you how we make water, and I tell the story of the mayor of Marco Island. Thank you for joining us. We left Martinique at 5:30 in the morning, and it was soon apparent that the winds were going to be in our favor. We have been beating easterly since we started our journey in Florida almost 2 years ago. This is our first westerly leg, and it's southwesterly, which puts the winds on our beam and allows us free sailing. This sail would eventually be 25 hours long. It's estimated to be 27. We got there 2 hours early for the first time in history and enjoyed sailing for 23 of those 25 hours. Engines are off. Sailing at 4.552. We've been averaging 5.5 with the engines off all day. We are passing Rodney Bay, St. Lucia. That was one of our emergency stops if things were bad out here. But things aren't bad out here except for the fish. So we're down a fishing pole to Sargassum. Broke a lure. Thought we lost it. There went another $20. But the lure on that line ended up getting caught on this line. And we got to reel in our lure. But there was a rat's nest of debauchery at the end. It's me and Marnie were just saying. I think her dad and my dad are up there in heaven somewhere playing pranks on us. Things are going too good for them. What if we just tied their fishing poles together? Well played. We're still having the time of our life. There's the beautiful moon. It's a calm night. I don't know if you can see it. But it's like glass out here. For an overnight passage, it's ideal conditions. Not much wind at all, so we have one engine fired up at 1800 RPMs. Currently, we're supposed to get there about 8:30 in the morning. We're doing 5 knots. And this is just the next 6 hours of me sitting up here coming up with wonderful ideas. Way out there on the horizon, I can see a red and green light. So I get to spend the next hour saying, which direction is that boat going? If I can see red and green, I'm in that's heading towards me. But judging distance at night, we can spend 2 hours heading towards each other. And not cross paths for, 2 hours. Or that could be a small boat and finish us in like 15 minutes. But it's part of what we do on night shifts is just sit here and look out for things. Fishing poles are put away. And again, put on a podcast and kill 6 hours. Tomorrow morning, we will be in Grenada. And we'll have reached our destination we've talked about for 3 weeks now. But the most important thing, the part that excites me the most, it's back there. You can't see it because it's so far away you can't see. All the French bakery.
Every dawn breaks through the same old routine. task assigned and deadlines loom. Cycle, a repetition of the workday scene. The pressure never ends in the company zoo. The boss is always on my case.
So when we're not on shift, this is where you will typically find us. Even if we're not sleeping, we're trying to close our eyes just to readjust from being in the sun. And if it's more than a 24-hour crossing, we try and sleep whenever we can when we're not off shift. But we're close, so we can contact each other if we need help with anything. There is some sort of fish action going on here. There are fish all over the place. Fish! Get on my lure. These birds, trying to get them, but I want them on my lure. It's a night for celebration. So we have been trying, I have to look it up. We left St. Martin on July 18th to make our way to Grenada. And we are finally here in Carriacou, so we decided that we needed mimosas to celebrate.
This is also the furthest south we've traveled.
It is the furthest. I was talking about that on live this morning. This is the furthest south we have been, even on a cruise ship. I think St. Lucia was as far south as we had been, even on a cruise ship. Oh, Barbados.
Barbados.
I don't remember if Barbados. I know it's east. Maybe. We have been to Barbados. But anyways, the farthest south we've sailed on our boat.
Correct.
This is always the part I'm not good at. But we're making mimosas and we're celebrating, even though we're super duper tired. This will probably help us sleep.
We had one of the most amazing sails last night.
It's like those rolls that you have to hit to make open. Hey.
Nice pop.
And I didn't lose it.
That takes all the fun out of watching it bounce around.
Well, I know, but we don't want it to go in the ocean.
It's cork, it is wood. But yes. Yeah, so this was a long time in the making to get here. From here, it's dreams onward, or head back north for the season and hang out with friends. That's yet to be determined, but that's a tomorrow problem. Today is a today celebration. Me and Marnie aren't big celebrating people.
We're not. But this is a huge accomplishment.
Couldn't even tell you what we did for our 20-year anniversary. But for us and our dreams, reaching Grenada is one of those locations that it's a gateway. And
Yours had a lot of foam.
And I think somebody's trying to get me hammered. But we want to invite you guys for the celebration and say thank you for watching. And the next thing you know, we'll be exploring Grenada. You'll be along for a lot of boat projects coming up.
Yes, tons of boat projects.
And to whatever the future holds.
Cheers. Thanks for coming with us. Good morning from Carriacou, Grenada. So we just got done with our overnight passage from Martinique and arrived yesterday here in Carriacou, Grenada. which is an island north of Grenada by about 24 miles. And when we got here yesterday, just over those mountains over there, that is where the main check-in is at Tyrrell Bay. So we got checked in, we did what we needed to do, and then we promptly came over here to Sandy Island. So this is Sandy Island, and you will see just why we came over here. The waters are beautiful. It is just this small little island just north of Tyrrell Bay, and it is gorgeous. So we came over here to hang out with friends. So we're here kind of having a mini vacation, so to speak, hanging out with friends. We've got some other friends over there. And yeah, gonna just have some good times. And then in a couple of days, we are going to head back over to Tyrrell Bay to get everything ready for our passage down to the mainland of Grenada. So this is Sandy Island. The cool thing about this place, we don't typically use mooring balls, but this place we are on a mooring ball, as you can see right here. We don't mind it so much here. This is kind of like in the States would be like a national park. So they are trying really hard to conserve their reefs. So they've installed these mooring balls. So all these boats are all on mooring balls. That's what they require here. But yeah, so we're gonna be here for the next couple of days. One of the things that comes up in our videos a lot is about making water. So we do make our own water through reverse osmosis. And Blaine will come out in a little bit and show how we make water. We're only 2 people, so we actually don't need to make water really often because we run in the risk of our water going bad. But we do make water. This water here, we love making water in these types of conditions where the water's super clear. There's not any pollution. Everything is kept very pristine. It's a lot easier on our filters and on our membranes for our water maker. Another question that we get a lot is about whether or not we are getting enough vitamins and minerals from our water, and if we need to take supplements or anything like that. So I'm going to turn around here. So I actually, because there's a lot of chatter about these sorts of things. So I actually, when I went back to the States this last time to see my doctor, well, I went back for other reasons, but in the process, I was able to see my doctor, and I had him run like a full blood panel to look at all of those things. And when my results came back and I went in and had my office visit with him, he assured me that my blood work was great and that I didn't need to be taking anything extra. And I've been drinking this water exclusively for the last 2 years. So it's not like, just kind of like short term. It's been 2 years that we've been drinking this water, and we don't buy bottled water. All of our water that we make through reverse osmosis. Now, if we're out and about, of course, I will, periodically get a bottle of water. But most of the time we take our reusable water bottles with us. And so I don't even really drink a lot while we're out. But he assured me that all of my numbers are great and that I really don't need to worry about that. It was funny. He actually made a joke that with internet, the talk between international doctors is that Americans have the most expensive pee on the planet, because they take a lot of supplements and are worried about how their bodies are functioning and whether they're getting all the right things. Because he told me that if you're eating a well-balanced diet, which we do, we actually eat a lot, I would say a lot better out here. Uber Eats doesn't exist out here. So, and a lot of times it's like, do we really want to get in the dinghy and go all the way to shore for dinner? So we don't do a lot of takeout or going out to restaurants. So we do eat pretty well. I would say better than we ever did on land. So, if you're eating a balanced diet, you really don't need a lot of additives. He did tell me that because I am a lady of a certain age, that I should probably take calcium. So I do take an extra calcium pill. And I literally just take a multivitamin, a Costco gummy multivitamin, and that's all I take. So Blaine is on his way out here, and he is going to show you how we make water. So here we go. And here we go. Blaine is going to teach us how to make water that is good for drinking from the ocean.
I'm having Marnie film this one and using the mic because when I turn this way, all you're getting is wind. So I'm going to try and keep facing that way. If there's a voiceover in the middle of this, it's only because of the wind. But we keep our water maker in here. This is the first part. And then our second part is right here. And this is the pump. This is the membranes. And basically, to give you an overview, a whole part on this, is it sucks water up from the ocean, filters out all the floaters, pumps it at a high pressure at 800 psi through membranes that remove the salt and all the particles and produces clean, fresh water. And since we're parked in such a beautiful place, the water's going to be really clean. We plug this in. We have the 110 unit, so it produces 35 gallons of water per hour. With just the two of us, we don't go through that much water. I think if I was to go back in history and do it again, I would have got the 12 volt version. But the main thing I wanted to discuss was that we went with the standalone unit for two main reasons. Before we bought one, we watched a lot of videos on a lot of YouTube channels of people making water. And when their water maker eventually needs servicing, this filter needs changed out every so often. These hoses will eventually go bad. You'll see when I hook it up, there's a black high pressure hose that goes on here. When that's in your system, we've already experienced so many people who have to repair their water makers and they're diving underneath beds and they're doing boat yoga to get to different parts. And for me, I decided I would much rather be up here inspecting my equipment, pulling my water maker out when I needed it every time, than to have it installed and just to hit buttons and wait for something to blow up. Because inevitably, you're going to forget a system if you're not working on the system. So I can see I have a silver adapter back here. This is where the salt water comes in. It's already starting to get a little bit of salt corrosion on it. So when we're done filming, I'll actually be cleaning that up. But this gives me the opportunity to see those things. If you don't get to see them because it's been mounted underneath a cabin or whatnot, next thing you know, your boat's filling up with water, as a friend of ours did just a week ago. So that's why I went with the standalone unit. The other thing is in times of need, after living through Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, we could take this thing to a beach with our solar panels after a hurricane or after a disaster and make fresh water for people. If we need to go onto another boat, for instance, our neighbor boat, he's having some
some issues. We will include a little bit of that in this video. Not his fault. It's a shakedown. He's learning the boat, but his water maker isn't working. Well, we can now take the water maker right over to his boat. Instead of jerry canning water over, just produce water at his boat. So that's the reasons why we went with the portable one. But this just gets plugged in inside.
This is my job. I'm usually the plugger inner. And lovely plug here. We used to have this in the window, but now we have one right here to use.
And then we put the pre-filter on. This keeps sticks and everything and main particles from going up the hose.
Luckily, in this anchorage, we don't have to worry about that because this water is so pristine.
And it's flowing at a fast rate.
And it's flowing at a fast rate. And this is like ideal condition to make water because it doesn't filter as much.
And for anybody who follows sailing and knows about water makers and stuff, this isn't a detailed, thorough overview. This is mainly for people who ask us the question of, how do you get water? But one person will ask, I'm sure inevitably, if you just drop the hose in there, how do you make water underway? We don't. But at our next haul out, we're actually going to be putting in a through hole so that I could tie in to ocean water for underway passage for when we cross the Pacific. But for now, dropping it off the side and only making water when it's the two of us every week or so works great. This makes 35 gallons an hour. We have two 100-gallon tanks. So it takes about 6 hours to fill up our tanks. But what we've noticed is we don't fill up both tanks all the time. I usually fill up one and a half of another. And then when that half is gone, we switch tanks and didn't fill that one up. So it's always a rotation because we don't want water to spoil or go bad. And we don't want to waste the power. So the black hose from this, it's really hard. It's very technical. Snaps into here. Then out here, you've got two hoses, one green, one white. This white hose is where your good water will be coming out eventually. But I still stick that through the trampoline to start. Your green hose is your brine water. After it's separated all the stuff you don't want to drink, that's what comes out of here.
You definitely don't want to mix up those two hoses when you put them in your tank.
Yeah, no. Green does not mean good in this situation. I should have had that backwards.
Then you will have deck washing water, and that's about it.
Now, this is going to get noisy, so I'm only going to run it for a second. This will show you how many gallons per hour you're making. And then when I turn it on, we want to keep the dial right at 800 PSI, so right in the middle of that green. So I'll turn away from the wind. I will try and shield the mic from the noise, but it's a loud machine. So it fires up. You can see that we're getting water to our gauge over here, but we're not making any water because we haven't turned the high pressure on yet. We turn the high pressure on. Dial it in. And then we can see that we are at between 35 and 40 gallons per hour. Now at the end, I'm going to be doing a flush. And you'll see why it starts off a little higher than where it will end up. But now this right here is good, clean drinking water. And to test it, we have a meter. I'll fill a cup with water. We put the meter in there and we test it for total dissolved solids. And drinking water is good if it's TDS under 500. Most water makers produce between 50 and 200, no problem. Once your membranes start to go out or you start to abuse them, like I have a couple of times before I learned, you can start seeing TDS up in the 250s range, but it's still lower parts per million than your drinking water at home. We did take some bottled water and some city water tests when we were in Florida. I was completely shocked by the numbers compared to our crystal clear water. And then we open up our tank, we throw it in, and we go edit videos for the next 3 hours. So this thing right here will take 3 hours to fill that tank up from empty. A little under 3 hours. And then when we're done, we pull this out, put it back in the water, close that up, and then we take the pressure down. Wait for the pressure meter to drop. So you can see we're now not producing anything. Shut it off and put it away. Now, the next stage in this process will be to flush it with fresh water or to pickle it. Pickling is just flushing it with fresh water with a chemical in it. Not a chemical, a bio. It's a mixture designed to keep stuff from growing, biologicals from growing in there. It's food grade chemicals, but no chemicals can ever go through this. At no point do you ever want to run city water or any other source of fresh water through this other than the water it itself has produced. These membranes are sensitive.
And we also have to be careful of things like Judy's making water. I don't want to be washing dishes because our gray water from washing dishes would put soap in the water. So we want to make sure those sorts of things are not going on while water is being made as well.
Yeah, and generally speaking, I run it up here on the front of the boat and everything else is to the back. The wind and waves usually always going the other direction, but we live a slow life, so we can do one thing at a time. But that's how we make water, and that's why I don't have to pay that stupid water company in Port Orchard any money ever again. Yeah, you. The one utility company in my entire life you couldn't pay online. You had to go into their office to pay the bill every time. Anyways, I paid the bill one time. I'm done paying you, Port Orchard Water District. And that's how we make water. Thanks.
So after we got done making water, we decided to head over to this island that we came to, which is called Sandy Island. Cute little place. And we were hanging out with friends and snorkeling and playing in the water, letting the kids have a good time, and just kind of chatting it up and relaxing. So that was a really good day for us. Later that night, we had another boat friend that was coming in, and they were on their shakedown cruise, and they were having some electrical issues, and some jib issues, as you can see here. And so Jimbo came over, picked up Blaine, and they went over to try and help him get into where he needed to go on the mooring ball. Once they got the boat secure, everything taken care of, everybody went back to their respective boats and got a good night's sleep. Good morning. So, just like in land life, all the women are on their own boats cleaning up my cabin. That needs to go downstairs. That needs to go to a friend. I got dishes to do, filling up the water, making juice. And then I come out here. Oh, water needs to be made. And over here, the men are chatting it up, trying to work out a problem. So just like in land life, we all got to deal with our problems. All the kids are playing together, some on the back of the boat, there's some on the front of the boat. and we're getting stuff done. So that all worked out nicely. The next day, all of the guys got together to try and work on the generator issue that they were having. And it was kind of funny because it's like back and forth, this boat, that boat. They'd come over to one boat and chat about, well, what about this and what about this? And then they'd go back to the boat that needed the help and start working on it again. And then they'd come back for a tool, but they were able to get it up and running. Not sure what's going on over here, but we're excited about something. We have the power. They must have got the generator going. We love our little boating community and everybody coming together. I can't wait to hear what happened.
One thing that piggybacks off of what Marnie is saying is one of the reasons we're on YouTube. Yes, we love bragging about our sandy beaches and our adventures. Yes, we hope everybody follows along and we become, make money off of the content we produce. But the number one reason you're watching this video is because I'm practicing. What you guys are watching for this first 6 months or a year is me taking my storytelling lessons. It's my short stories turned into a college class as I prepare myself to tell the real stories I want to tell. We are here in Grenada. There was a conflict that happened in Grenada in 85 and 86 where America fought down here. And I don't know the full story. I'm not ready to tell that full story. What I want to do when we visit these islands is meet the people who were alive during those conflicts and get their story and get how they feel. There is a Thanksgiving Day on October 25th here in Grenada to celebrate the events of America coming here. Now, I know from my personal experience being involved in many situations stateside, WTO, Hurricane Katrina relief, Hurricane Maria relief, there are the narratives that are put out by media, and there's the real life experiences on the ground, and there's the feelings afterwards. Once the cameras turn off, once everybody's moved on to another subject, there's what's left. I want to tell some of those stories. I want to go deep dive into how a conflict in 85 led to such and such day. This trip, we're running from hurricanes. I'm not getting a chance to walk the town, meet people enough to ask them to interview them, to get their stories. But in telling stories, I got to talk about the number one thing that to me is people. As Marnie just explained, we spent a lot of time working with a neighbor boat on their generator. And as much as I was over there helping, that's not because of me. That's because of people like Jimbo. That's because of people like my friend 72 back in the States. There's this group of people, this select group of people that are always involved in helping. And you'll see them, whether it's a family party, a school event, boaters on the water. There's the one guy like Jimbo who is always out there driving his dinghy, pulling the kids along on the wakeboard. Or whether it's 72 back home, you don't know it, but sometimes you turn around and you're like, hey, where did he go? When you're out to dinner and he's behind the bar helping the bartender because things are busy. I don't know where that level of confidence comes from. I don't know where that level of just jump in there with both feet. My social anxiety stops me from wanting to be, or from being that person, but I always want to be that person. So this week I want to talk about Robert Richter. When me and Marnie first started our sailing adventures together, we started in Key Largo. We had our horrible time first night trying to anchor. We were trying to dock for the first time in Key West. We tried to sail around and understand weather routing from Key West to Marco Island. We had a rough go of it. We pulled into Marco Island. We limped into Marco Island. and took a breath. It was a nice, safe anchorage, shallow water, no weather. And a boat started circling us. And I hate this about myself. I hate the fact that I'm watching this boat start to circle us and I started getting worried. I'm like, are we in the wrong spot? Is this somebody's crab pot area? Is he scouting our boat out for later? And I got a nervous feeling. And then eventually he came up to us. And he said hi, and he asked if we lived on the boat. And he started asking what our plans were. And we started telling him, hey, we're planning to sail around the world. And then he started telling us how he follows Sailing Parlay and how he loves Good, Bad, and Ugly and another sailing channel. And how this is his dream and he's planning on getting a catamaran, and asked if he could come aboard and see the catamaran. And then he left. And then a couple hours later, he came back with this care package, and it was a bottle of Crown Royal. It was some crackers, some chocolates, some map of the local area. But on that day, that was the world to us. It was a small monetary value, but it was a huge thing for him to do. We decided after meeting Robert and realizing what a good, kind person he is, we started calling him the mayor of Marco Island. We spent 2 trips to Marco Island. We ran into him both times. We had dinners. He took my wife to do laundry. He was an amazing ambassador. He was the mayor of Marco Island because he's the only person on that entire island who took the time to get to know us. Sadly, Robert passed away last year. And I don't know the full details and don't necessarily want to share the details I do have. One of the last things Robert did was he was going to join us on our passage from Florida to Puerto Rico. But we knew we were stopping in Cuba, and he knew he needed to get a passport. And the passport office didn't get him his passport in time. And he couldn't go with us, and he was crushed. But he gave us a fishing pole. He wanted us to fish with that fishing pole and catch fish. He also made us promise that when we got to the equator, we would call him, and he'd sail across the equator with us, and we'd drink together. Sadly, Robert's never going to cross the equator. But we had that pole. And in the spirit of Robert, we ran into a Canadian couple in Martinique. And as a lot of the boaters out there, a lot like us, there's certain things that it's just sometimes out of your price range. New fishing gear, although important on a boat, sometimes when you're trying to decide between getting a water maker part and getting a fishing pole, it's not the top priority. And I remembered Robert Richter, and I knew what Robert Richter would do. And I pulled down Robert Richter's pole and I gave it to this man. And I told him the story of Robert Richter, the mayor of Marco Island. And that's what I want to be. I want to be more like Robert. I want to be more like Jimbo. I want to be more like Hill 72. I want to be like these people, even if it's like goes against my whole nature and my whole anxiety. They're the people I'm drawn to and the people I want to be. The people who just jump in and help. The people who just give. And this sailing community is filled with people with dreams. Robert had a dream. And he wanted to sail around the world. And his dream didn't die with him. Robert's still sailing around the world. And I'm going to end this video, and I'll see you next week, but I'm going to end this video on one picture that shows Robert still alive and his one act of kindness and what it did for a family. Thank you.